My wife said she'd be out shopping. All day she returned 12 minutes. Later, after I mentioned Ashley's, I didn't say the name to test anything. It slipped out the way names do when you're half listening and half remembering. We were in the kitchen, the kind of late morning that feels borrowed from no one. She was tying her shoes, already narrating the errands she'd stretch across the day. Groceries, returns, a stop she hadn't decided yet, all-day shopping. A harmless plan. I said, if you see Ashley, tell her I said hi. I didn't look up when I said it. That's what makes the memory sharp now. I heard the lace freeze, a pause that was too precise. When I finally looked, her face had settled into something careful, like she'd just placed a glass down and didn't want it to tip. Which Ashley? She asked. I named the one I meant, a coworker she'd mentioned before, or maybe a friend. I wasn't sure. The categories had blurred in our marriage in small, forgivable ways. She smiled. Not wide, efficient. Oh, I won't see her. Then she was gone. I stood there longer than I needed to, rinsing a mug that didn't need rinsing. I told myself it was nothing. I've been good at that. We both have. You don't keep a marriage running by interrogating every pause. 12 minutes later, the front door opened. She came back in with the same bag she'd left with. The air of someone who forgot a wallet but hadn't. She didn't mention forgetting anything. She moved through the kitchen with a brightness that was almost cheerful. They closed early, she said. The place I was going first. It didn't line up. I knew the store hours because I'd been there the week before. The lie wasn't outrageous. That was the problem. It was built to slide past. I said nothing. Silence isn't noble. It's practical. If you speak too soon, you give the other person a chance to shape the moment. I wanted to see what would happen if I didn't. She talked. About traffic that didn't exist. About a text she'd gotten. About nothing. Each sentence tried to stitch over the gap, and each stitch pulled tighter. Inside me, there was no explosion. Just a narrowing, a sense that something had been exposed not by my suspicion, but by timing. Truth had stumbled into the room early, and now neither of us knew where to put it. She left again 10 minutes later, saying she'd try another place. This time, she kissed my cheek with intention. I stayed where I was. The authority arrived without drama that afternoon. A number I didn't recognize lit up my phone. I almost ignored it. I don't know why I answered. The woman on the line spoke evenly. Loss prevention from a department store across town. She asked if I was the emergency contact from my wife. Her tone wasn't accusatory. It was procedural. There had been an incident. A misunderstanding, she said, the word used like padding. I drove there with the windows down. Not for air, for time. My wife was sitting in a small office when I arrived, hands folded, eyes bright in the way they get when tears are being managed. A uniformed security officer stood to one side, polite and bored. On the desk between them was a receipt and a sweater I recognized. One she didn't own yesterday. They explained. The camera footage. The return without a purchase. The store policy. No charges, they said. A warning, a record. I nodded at the right places. I asked the questions that kept everything calm. I didn't raise my voice. Control doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just shows up and refuses to leave. My wife didn't look at me until we were outside. I can explain, she said. I know, I said. And I meant it. I knew the shape of the explanation. Pressure, a favor. A friend, Ashley, who had a way of making small rules feel optional. A pattern I hadn't wanted to map. On the drive home, we didn't talk. The silence wasn't punishment. It was information. It told us what we'd lost and what we were pretending we still had. That night, I didn't accuse her of anything beyond what had already happened. I didn't ask about Ashley. I didn't need to. The name had done its work earlier. It had shortened a day and widened a truth. In the weeks that followed, power didn't swing. It settled. I stopped covering for her in conversations. I stopped assuming the best when the evidence asked for neutrality. I kept my dignity by staying exact. She noticed. People always do. We are still married. That surprises some people when they hear the story. It shouldn't. Collapse isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the sound of trust being set down and not picked back up. There's no victory here, just a recalibration. I live with clearer edges now. So does she. Whether that's growth or simply the shape of consequence, I'm still deciding.